Coming up on Inside Lehman, do you really have any idea where all those materials go after you throw them in the recycling bin? We'll take you inside the world of recycling and examine the health risks of environmental damage.
Plus, an animal study reveals interesting details about the nature of human relationships.
And a survivor of an attack that made headlines tells others it's time to take back the night.
We'll have all of this and a trip to the theater.
So sit back and relax because Inside Lehman starts now.
Hello and welcome to Inside Lehman. I'm Laura Boden.
And I'm Maurice Mercado. Have you ever thought of how much garbage you dispose of on a daily basis? Now multiply this by every resident in your city, especially in a major metropolitan area like New York City. Where does it all go? Inside Lehman's Lilia Udina is here to explain to us what happens to our trash and why you should recycle.
Scientific studies continue to find links between environmental pollution and recent patterns of global warming. In addition, media reports do suggest that there is a greater public awareness about the need to control and even reverse the trends of hazardous chemicals finding their way into water systems and food supplies. However, we all pollute. We throw something away every day. But recycling helps us to reduce the impact. Let's see if it really works and how recycling benefits us.
When we throw plastics, glass, and paper into recycling containers, this is one of the places where it goes. Allegro Sanitation Corporation in Secaucus, New Jersey, collects tons of it every day from businesses around the New York metro area. Instead of winding up in landfills, these materials get sorted out and recycled.
We're going to say for the month of March, we processed approximately 2,500 tons of recycled cardboard and paper. So I'm going to plug in the 2,500 tons, okay, into my app here. And I'm going to hit this arrow, and here's the answer to the question.
The benefits of recycling is reduction. Any ton that gets extracted is a ton less that we have to pay to get rid of.
As we walk up to throw out our garbage, it is now much more common to see three main trash cans. One for plastic, one for paper, and one for general waste. Some places also have a separate bin for metal and glass.
So once all the materials get in, how does it all get sorted out? Let's look at the complicated process step by step.
We pick out two types of paper. We pick out what's called an office mix, which is a white paper. That's a high-grade paper that's remade into another white paper. And then we have a mixed paper. It gets made into egg crates. It gets made into pizza boxes. It's a lower-grade paper. We pull out two types of plastic. One would be like if you bought a shirt, a clear bag. Okay, it's a higher-grade plastic. That gets pulled out of the waste stream, baled, and sold to markets in China or even domestically till they buy it, because it's one of the best plastics. The second plastic is could be plastic toys. They call it, what we call it is a mixed rigid that gets made into garbage bags, lower grade plastics.
As for the materials that are not recyclable, wet garbage. Those get sent to the burning plants, where the garbage is separated again, burned, and then the energy from the burning garbage is used to power homes in the Newark and Essex County areas of New Jersey. But how does it affect us when people do not bother to properly dispose of their garbage, and materials that should be recycled just get thrown out with the trash? At Lehman College, the impact of such behavior is being examined.
People get like a tingling in their arms and so on. They tell you that go and check whether you have a heavy metal pollution. Plastic, it might leach over time some of the chemicals into the environment that might get into the water, and then it could biomagnify or accumulate into the organism, let's say in a fish. So now that fish would be eaten by, let's say, human, right? We would not eat one fish or two fish, but over time we will eat many of those. So little by little means at a low level, then it will, over time, it will cause the dysfunctions, especially in the brain, cancer to the other problem, respiratory problem, and a whole host of issues, including the endocrine system.
The Environmental Protection Agency's most recent e-waste report shows that 416,000 cell phones are being thrown away on a daily basis just in the United States. Electronic waste, or e-waste, is another big issue that leads to materials such as lead, mercury, and arsenic being released into the environment in developing countries where our trash is actually being purchased for the raw materials that it contains.
There are people basically beating the cathode tubes of the TV or that you find in the TV. So not knowing a little kid, maybe in China or Bangladesh or other parts of the world, they're beating it up to get a little bit of, let's say, there may be a platinum or something. So they're trying to get that out, but they are exposing themselves to a high level of those toxic chemicals.
Meanwhile, students at Lehman College have created an environmental club and named it Green Track in order to create an awareness of important environmental issues.
A lot of sea animals are going away because their habitat is being destroyed by who? By us. And you look at today how many trees are being cut in the world, in Africa, in the Amazon forest in Brazil. You know, it's too much. And I feel like somebody has to do something.
Nature only gives you back what you give it. So if you give it something good, it'll, repay you with good. And if you don't, then, we get a bad weather and things like that.
Every little change starts with you. So if you want to make a change, you better start it with yourself.
Lilia Yudina, Inside Lehman.
We've been told since we were kids just how important it is to make sure we consume enough vitamin-enriched foods. But have you ever wondered if vitamin supplements are really doing our bodies any good? Inside Lehman's Evelyn Scalisi shows us healthier eating choices we can make instead of just resorting to supplements.
There isn't really a replacement for healthy eating, but we do know that vitamins, when taken correctly, can be a beneficial supplement to our overall health. Finding the balance between sensible vitamin use and just buying into another marketing scheme is the key. We had the opportunity to visit a cooking class and see nutrition students working on their final projects. They each had to prepare a healthy, well-balanced meal for $5 per person. Mary Opfer is a registered dietitian who teaches in the Department of Health Sciences at Lehman College. Having previously run a restaurant herself for 10 years, she's able to give her students all the right tools to healthy eating.
Well balanced to me is a little bit of everything. I don't think that you should have no carbs. You should have little carbs, a little protein, some vegetables. You can eat mostly vegetables and have a little bit of lean meat or fish.
If you've never taken a health sciences or cooking class before, there can be a lot of misconceptions about exactly what a well-balanced diet is. Nutrition experts will tell you that fads come and go, but that the same plan does not work for everyone.
Patricia Riley is a nutrition major who already has an associate's degree in nutrition. She plans to use her knowledge of healthy eating to help others as well as herself and her family.
All studies have shown that there's so many fast food restaurants in lower income areas instead of fresh fruit, fresh produce, and I want to hope we do something to change that.
Vitamin supplements are not a magic fix that will compensate for a poor diet. That's why they're called supplements. But how can a person really maintain a healthy diet? It's not just about choosing the right type of food and checking the vitamin content. The way in which you prepare your meal also contributes to its overall health value.
So many packaged foods have so many preservatives, and I myself am now trying to move away from that. We don't do any frying. I don't buy any canned goods. Everything we buy is either fresh or frozen. And in preparing, I don't use a lot of butter. It's a minimal amount of either vegetable oil or olive oil.
Ethel is preparing a meal she's made many times before, but after taking this class, she's learned there were a few changes she could make to make it healthier without sacrificing taste.
Before, if I prepare this food, I'm going to add chicken or everything that's too much protein, double protein. But now I know that adding chicken or fish or making it have too much double protein. With or without the chicken, it tastes good and it's still healthy.
When it comes to vitamins, how much is helpful and how much is too much? A balanced diet and responsible vitamin use can go hand in hand.
So food is very rich, and if you can get what you need from food, that's really the ideal. But sometimes for a variety of reasons, people can't. So that's when we look to dietary supplements to supplement the diet. That's why they're called dietary supplements. They're not supposed to stand alone. They're supposed to be in addition to the diet, to what you eat.
It seems every day there's someone out there with new information on how to eat right, what diet to follow, and even which dietary supplements to take. But how much knowledge does the public have, and are we educated enough to know what is best for us? Indeed, we are all surrounded by temptation when it comes to aggressive marketing of fast food and unhealthy snacks, which contribute to many of the health problems we as a society face today.
Food is so readily available and it's so enticing, and food manufacturers produce food that is, they call it the bliss point, exactly the combination of salt and sweet and fat that makes it so that you can't stop eating, you can't eat just one. And this is food science today, is how do you produce food that people can't stop eating and therefore can't stop buying? And that's how manufacturers make money. So we are in a toxic environment when it comes to food.
So, should we assume that everyone should take vitamins, or conversely, that no one should? The next time you're in a store and a sales representative tells you how much you need certain vitamin supplements, think first. Will buying those items really help me by filling in nutritional gaps, or can I handle that issue myself by eating a balanced diet? Smart decisions can make a huge difference in a person's long-term health. Evelyn Scalisi, Inside Lehman.
Still ahead on Inside Lehman.
As odd as it may seem, the family lives of a certain species of rodent may tell us more than you would expect about human relationships.
Plus, silence is not an option. Communities rally to take back the night.
And we'll take you to the theater. Welcome back to Inside Lehman. I'm Maurice Mercado.
And I'm Laura Boden. Some men stay faithful to their partner and are involved parents. Other men may be committed to a relationship with more than one woman and or lack parenting skills.
But are there clues in the animal world that point to biological reasons for social behaviors or even disorders such as autism? Inside Lehman's Myra Escamilla has the story.
These little rodents are plurivalves. They often demonstrate social behavior that is similar to what we see in human family relationships. Dr. Mariam Bamsha Alavi has been fascinated by plurivalves ever since she was introduced to them as a graduate student. Today she leads a research team of graduate and undergraduate students at Lehman College that focuses on the neural basis of social behaviors, seeking to understand how neuroendocrine factors regulate bonding between parents and infants and how bonding impacts brain activity.
These rodent species are similar to humans because their social organization has been identified as monogamous. They're socially monogamous, which means that most of the time, in most cases, the male stays with the female and forms a pair bond.
Researchers have hypothesized that the brain processes social information along with factual information to produce a greater level of understanding or an important association.
When we pay attention to social information, we recognize faces. I can recognize your face, I can remember your face. A different part of my brain is activated than when I talk about, somebody asks me what is the capital of England, or if I have to remember factual information about the United States.
Using imaging techniques, researchers detect which part of the brain is activated during a social cue. But that is only one step to finding out how neurons are connected to each other and what kind of chemicals are released.
We were testing what was that connection that they had with their original mate that would have them come back.
Researchers have found that these rodents, unlike other mammals who mate and often leave their partner, usually mate for life and will stay attentive during and after their partner's pregnancy. Plurivalves exhibit some social behaviors that are similar to humans, and they frequently interact with one another. You'll notice that the mother who has her young clinging to her hands them off to the father while she explores their environment.
So this provides us with an animal model that we can work with. We can now look at their brains. They're small enough that we can raise them in the laboratory and to look at individual neurons to see how these neurons grow, develop, what kind of chemicals they might release, and which parts of the brain are activated when they're engaged in social behavior.
Dr. Bamsha Alavi conducted an experiment to see how paternal the prairie voles are and how much attention the animal gave his 2 infants after being exposed to his mate's cues during the gestation of their offspring and after their birth. Even though the responses varied for each animal, it was hypothesized that the cues of the mate were still stimulating the brain.
They look the same, but they each have a complete different personality. You might have one that's really feisty and another that's extremely quiet and just stays there and looks at you. So that's a really fascinating thing. So it adds to the social behavior that we're trying to learn and see how we are.
You can see from this graph that males that have had physical contact with their mate or males that were exposed to her cues from a distance, her odor, her sound, were able to see her, they are spending more time hovering over the offspring. Whereas when the males are separated from their mate, so they have no exposure to her, they're less attentive to the offspring. So this suggests that some cues from the female is impacting the male's brain, so he's more engaged with the offspring and is paying more attention to them, is hovering over them.
Every male is different, but studies found that prairie voles that mated with their female partners and were separated were more attentive once they saw the female again. The ones that mated with 2 females also showed attentiveness, but to both. The ones that did not mate with either female cannot make a decision on which female to pick.
This suggests to us that the mate, the cues that the male is receiving from the mate, is influencing how the male is paying attention to other females. If he has some sort of anxiety because he has been separated from his mate, his attention seems to be directed back towards her. Collectively, our research together with the research from other species will give us a better understanding of how the brain works when it processes social information, and that's what we're looking for.
Behaviors, motivations, and even feelings themselves are often still a mystery, and humans generally don't think they have anything in common with rodents. Yet, strange as it may seem, animals like the prairie voles may one day help scientists identify what can be done to help when social pathways in the brain are disrupted. Myra Scamilla, Inside Lehman.
Dance and theater are distinctive art forms that are combined at times to refresh or even create bold new theatrical pieces. Inside Lehman's Adavi Gutierrez shows us an innovative staging of the classic Romeo and Juliet.
The fearful passage of the death-marked love and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end, not to remove, is now the 2-hour traffic of our stage.
The which if you with patient ears attend,
what tears shall be missed,
our toils shall strive to mend.
The classic story of Romeo and Juliet is set in Verona, Italy, where 2 families, the Capulets and Montagues, have been feuding for years. Their fates become intertwined when Romeo, a Montague, and Juliet, a Capulet, fall in love at first sight. Love is an emotion that can take a person to great highs and lows. But like most dependencies, the high is what keeps people coming back for more.
I think it resonates with people because it is the quintessential love story. And it continually fascinates us, the idea of young love, love at first sight, and what people are willing to do for love.
Professor and director Davis Sullivan focused on the phrase death-marked love. This phrase made him look at the play with fresh eyes, questioning the role that love plays in life, and creating an innovative adaptation of the stage performance.
What does it mean to be in love, knowing everyone is ultimately going to die? And what does that do to love? And I think for me, I was looking at how love is intensified because of the brief amount of time, or the finite amount of time we're going to have with each other.
Romeo and Juliet was written as a tragedy, but this adaptation had a unique twist. Inspired by the action of the play, dance and fight choreography were integrated into the performance. Professor and dance choreographer Amy Larimer helped prep the actors and dancers to get into character.
We did some group work in terms of space, like trying to feel each other in the space. And then with Romeo and Juliet, they're the ones that have the most physical contact. And I actually worked with them on the first day because I wanted to get some of the awkwardness that there is, because they are touching each other for the first time in the play.
It's hard to find things to relate it to, ways it to make it important to yourself, like emotionally, physically. You can think about these things, you can feel them, and that's really hard, but it's a challenge worth accepting.
It's a very iconic role, so I just thought about making it personal and relating it to my own life. I thought about everyone who I loved and funneled that into Romeo, because that's the only way to get any sort of, feeling out of it.
With colorful costumes and colorblind casting, this production adds yet another new chapter to a story that audiences have enjoyed for generations.
Love is something that is continuous throughout years, and it's people finding love and finding each other. And that's something that people are always trying to find. They're always trying to find a meaning to life, and a meaning to life would be love, and always trying to contrast against death.
That's what a lot of teenagers go through, is just, these bursts of emotion. And I think that's true for a lot of people, and that's why so many people can relate to it.
I think the reason why it's so resonant even today is because it's like the two things that most people know how to experience it, or it's happened to them in one way or another, And which one's stronger, who will win, it's really up to them to decide. But I think that's why it never goes away, because there's never an answer to the question.
Even a timeless classic like Romeo and Juliet can be reimagined. This allows audiences to enjoy it either for the first time or in an enriched version for those familiar with the original. Adavi Gutierrez, Inside Lehman.
Imagine feeling helpless and victimized, and struggling to speak about it. Sometimes people need an environment in which they can feel comfortable to do so, especially in the most critical moments. Inside Lehman's Alison Moreno introduces us to a community of organizations and a survivor of sexual violence who continue their fight for greater legal rights.
The memories and other thoughts expressed on these t-shirts only begin to tell the story. According to Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 44% of people targeted by sexual predators are under age 18. 80% are under age 30. Every 2 minutes, someone in the U.S. is sexually assaulted.
1 in 6 women and 1 in 33 men will be a victim of sexual assault.
So now the voice is inside her head, telling her she should be better off dead.
Each year, nearly 238,000 people in the United States are sexually assaulted. An estimated 60% of these cases are not reported to police, and 97% of rapists may never spend a day in jail. This is why people gather in annual events around the nation that share the name Take Back the Night. Lehman College joined the call for justice, hosting its own event aimed at helping people speak out when they have been victims of sexual or domestic violence.
We start with a street fair that showcases different community resources in all the 5 boroughs, because we know that we have students here at Lehman that come from far and local as well. So we try to showcase a little bit of different services showcasing domestic violence and sexual assault throughout the city.
Since Take Back the Night is dedicated to giving a voice to survivors of sexual assault, hearing the stories from the people who lived through it allowed others to connect with their experiences.
And Lydia Cuomo is going to be speaking and telling her story. She recently came out and to talk about her sexual assault, and is working very hard to change the definition of rape in New York State to encompass more, so that survivors can have a little bit rest easier. Even if there's a conviction, they don't have a rape conviction, which is part of why she's going to be telling her story today.
Annual Take Back the Night events address critical needs that exist throughout the nation, as well as right here in the borough of the Bronx. Part of the problem is that there are too many legal loopholes that can weaken efforts to prosecute in cases of sexual assault. Also, there are many cases that go unreported.
We live in a community where just from the beginning of this year, I just looked up the statistic, there's already been 80 rapes in the Bronx, and we're only in April. And it's one too many, but certainly 80 is a lot. And that's not including other types of sexual assaults that could be documented in our borough. The idea that they can make a change happen, even if they're one person, either within with themselves because they maybe have not gotten help for their own personal experience, or they can go back to their communities and work with their local precinct or work with their local assemblyman or assembly person and learn how they can use their voice to change our culture in our city, and then hopefully a domino effect in the entire country.
An important part of the theme of events such as this involves the concept of leadership and knowing when to speak out against victimization of women and men.
We have to take an actual stance, not just going to the police, but changing our behaviors, the way we think, and the things we get involved in when it comes to domestic violence and sexual assault. But the flip side to that is also that we want to speak out as far as men being victims of these crimes as well. Men who have been victims of domestic violence, men who have been victims of sexual assault, sexual harassment. You know, this isn't just something that's prone to women. You know, in some cultures, silence means consent. So if we're standing by and allowing people to speak to women this way, or allowing people to speak to young men this way, you know, in a certain sense, we're supporting it.
Lydia Cuomo, the Bronx elementary school teacher who is fighting for legislation to expand and better define what is considered rape, is a survivor herself. Her story made headlines when she reported that she was sexually attacked by a New York City police officer.
With rape, there's a loss of power and a loss of control, and speaking out for me became my way of taking my power back and taking my story back. And every time I'm able to do that, I'm a little more successful, and I think I take a little bit of a piece back. I've been given the opportunity to do it so publicly that I think it has sort of taken on a sort of empowerment role and opened up a lot of conversations, you know, like really important conversations that we need to be having about.
For Cuomo, silence is not an option, and she is urging others to speak up instead of remaining anonymous victims.
We need to have a society and a world or a place, right, if you have young women or whatever, where it's a safe environment to speak and talk about things. And if you don't have a safe environment for that, you're not going to talk about it and you're not going to open up, and therefore, you know, we're not going to be empowered or feel empowered to speak about things.
Cuomo has been attempting to get New York State legislators to redefine what she considers to be an overly narrow definition of rape that allows certain violent acts to be treated as sexual assault rather than rape.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people keep telling me, oh, it's semantics, but I think semantics are incredibly important, and rape is an emotionally powerful word, and victims need to have the right to call what happened to them rape, and they need to be able to say it. Being raped is not the only thing I identify with, and I don't identify with that. It's this thing that happened to me. I definitely identify with being a teacher and a woman before anything else in my life.
Take Back the Night is all about expression, through the stories of survivors and art. It is also about spreading the word about important resources that will allow previously silent victims to rise up and speak out. Allison Marino, Inside Lehman.
And if she was gone, nobody would care.
And that's all for now. As always, we'd like to thank our talented reporters and crew for all their hard work, and you can see more Inside Lehman by searching Inside Lehman on YouTube.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Inside Lehman.